Yeah, it was funny today. I was filling out something on the internet, and it was asking me about personality profiles. Have you done any of these personality profiles? And of course I have. Yeah. And I'm Enneagram 1, wing 2.
Yeah.
And you're a 7, wing what? Do you know what your wing is?
It depends on the situation.
Oh.
I can wing 8 when
Can you do that?
Yes, I can wing 8 when I'm in high.
When you're pushed.
Stress.
When you're pushed, you can go 8 in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, but I can go 6 too when I'm giving too much time to think.
Okay. And then Myers-Briggs.
Oh, I'm...
it's like E. I'm
ENFJ.
You're ENFJ, and I was... I forget all of the letters, but I did that. And then Patrick Lencioni. Patrick Lencioni, is that who it is? Or...
Sounds
yeah,
like
Patrick Lencioni has just done... something that came out a couple years ago, and it was the genius levels or something like that, and I had actually done that when I was at Crosswind to see kind of where I landed with regard to that, and so I had all of those letters as well. It's just kind of interesting to see. They all call it different things, but I tend to be pretty consistent.
The diagnosis is similar, yes.
Yeah. How has our wirings been a struggle in our marriage? This is not what the podcast is about, but I just wanted to,
I'm a whimsical dreamer and glass is half full, or half, and I want to continue to try to do as much as I can and squeeze as much life out of the experience, and you are cautious and following.
Like, I love, like, what you just said sounds so appealing to me. Like, it sounds so good, but there's just, like, it raises so many questions in my head. Like, how do we get there, and how do we do it?
You just get in the car and go.
But you got to make sure that you got gas and money for a hotel and
just go.
Know where you're going. Yeah, no, I appreciate
Wear the dress, eat the cake.
Oh my gosh, and don't start building a tower until you sit down and figure out whether you can afford to or not.
Oh my gosh.
Like that's the Bible. I'm just saying. Like,
you can't take it with you.
Jesus, Jesus never said eat the cake and wear the dress and take the vacation.
Sure he did.
He did?
He said, follow me.
Yeah, but... Yeah, no.
We're going on an adventure.
Yeah, okay.
He didn't say, go with me. We're going to go invest in money market accounts.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess. It makes me so uncomfortable. Hey everybody, welcome to the Unremarkable Podcast, where we take pieces of our story and pieces of your story so we can better understand God's story. We're your chosen informants. I am Jeremy.
I'm Jody.
And we have been chatting it up, kind of catching up, and there's a lot that we need to kind of chat about today. Before we do, I want to go ahead and make you all aware of a couple things. We know that we are not the only ones that have been through amazing stories and seen God come through and do some amazing things, and so we would like to take your story to the tens of people that listen to our story as well. And so if there's someone out there, or you know of someone who has a story or has seen God show up in an amazing way, we would love to connect with them, and we would love to share their story with us. There's a couple ways you can get in touch with us. Number one, you can go and email me, thejeremypowell@gmail.com.
Such a big deal.
It is. The Jeremy Powell. Mm-hmm. Or you can go to our website, unremarkableministries.org, click on Partner with the Powells, and there's a link on that page about your story and how you can share it with us. If you'll go there, fill that out, then we will be in touch with you about scheduling a time for you to be on the podcast.
We would love to talk to you.
Also, if you haven't followed us on our socials and on our YouTube page, we have a YouTube page, we have Instagram, Facebook. Go check out our website. There's all kinds of ways that you can get involved and partner with us. I can come and speak at your church or your function. Jody can come and speak at your church or your function. Yes. The girls can come and speak at your church or your function, or all of us can come, or part of us can come. Whatever it is that you
dance.
Yeah, my dancing is a little lacking.
You look like the frog.
I look like Kermit the Frog when I dance.
So there you go.
But to be honest with you, it's actually a step up from the way I was before fungal meningitis.
Let's go.
Yeah. So let's go and let's talk a little bit about and fill people up on, fill people up.
Yes, we're gonna fill your soul.
Fill people in on our visit before we jump in and go back to the story. Let's talk about our most recent visit to the NIH.
We're going to share with you Jeremy returning home and all of the therapy and the amazing, miraculous, transpiring health and healing in his progress. But we like to go to the NIH because they see him once a year, so it's always an amazing experience to have them say, it's been a year, look how far you've come.
Yeah. So I actually write about this, and if you want to go read about it, you can on the blog, but I talked about when we went to Europe and we rode in one of those bullet trains.
Yes.
It goes like 120 miles an hour or whatever.
Super fast.
We're zooming down through the French countryside, and you look out the window, and it doesn't feel like you're going that fast.
No, it just looks like we're walking.
But if you were to see the train from the outside, it is zooming by. I mean, it is blowing by. And that's what my recovery feels like a lot of times. From the inside, it doesn't feel like it's happening that fast.
We can play cards and play Guess the Crop.
Yeah, that's right. That's what we played on the bullet train. Only a handful of people will get that joke. But regardless, to people that only see me, once a month, or in the case of the NIH, once a year, they are always blown away at how far God has brought me in the last year.
And it again, yet another beautiful opportunity for us to share the hope of Jesus, because we know that we were blessed by God to have access to the NIH, but we're also blessed by God to cross paths with people in the NIH and allow them to be able to have hope as well.
Yeah, that's right. And so it started with us, getting our daughter to drop us off on Sunday morning at the airport in Birmingham, and we got to we passed a milestone at the airport.
Yes, this is the first time ever. Yes, Birmingham Airport is not huge, but still, any kind of lengthy duration of exercise is an accomplishment. And this is the first time we've done an airport where you walked the entire route.
I walked the entire time,
including security
including
checkpoint.
TSA. I went through TSA.
We went and stood in the little zapper thingy. And
that's right.
Stood without assistance.
That's right. Yeah.
That was huge.
Walked onto the airplane and was able to take my walker and do all of that. But so I think all of that was incredibly good. Got on and off. Didn't really have any issues.
Yeah. Didn't lose the walker like we did one time.
Didn't lose the walker. Oh man, that would have been terrible.
It would have been interesting.
I didn't use a wheelchair at the NIH either.
No, you did not.
I got on and off of shuttle buses and that sort of thing. And, so lots of progress in the last year.
Yeah.
The last time we went, we had to use a wheelchair.
That's right.
In the NIH. It's a lot of walking. It's a lot of getting around.
It is, but you got to all your destinations with that.
We did it. So we stayed at the Safra Family Lodge there at the NIH. Beautiful accommodations.
It is such a wonder. Thanks for all of you that sponsor that, because that's a place for not just us, but there's so many families that benefit from being able to sleep just across the road from their patients or their loved ones, and to have a good night's sleep and a kitchen to prepare a meal in. And such an amazing experience. So thank you. And they have two different ways to do that. There's the Safra Lodge and the Children's Inn.
The Children's Inn. So if your patient is under 18, you get to stay at the Children's Inn.
Yeah.
If you're older than that, you have to stay at the Safra Lodge, and so they're both great accommodations.
Yeah.
And then I think the thing that was the most shocking to me is for the first time ever on a trip to the NIH, I had no scans, no X-rays, no CAT scans, no MRIs. And my doctor, Dr. Kang, actually said, hey, you're doing so well, there's no need to irradiate you if we don't have to.
Isn't that kind?
And that is absolutely amazing.
Amazing, miraculous.
So they did blood work. Everything looked fine and normal and good.
And you got some shots.
I got 6 vaccinations.
You're like a grown-up now.
I have all of my vaxes. I am now all of a sudden fully, I'm about, I guess what, that makes me about a 2-year-old.
I think so. I don't know. You may have gotten all the way to 5.
All the way, maybe the 7th grade.
You are kindergarten ready.
Yeah, I don't know. So I'm ready to go to public school again. But like, yeah, no, a pneumococcal and DTaP, and I got I got one of the hepatitises.
Yeah, all the letters.
Yeah, and the shingles virus. I got that
because you've had the shingles.
I have had shingles, and it was not fun, and so I'm thankful to have that. So we got all of those vaccines. All of that was good. I think my transplant doctor, it was just shocking to me. I think I saw Dr. Kang, my transplant doctor, for about 15 minutes.
Yeah, it was a true doctor's visit. Like, all the nurses and the nurse practitioners did all the work, and the doctor came in and said,
Dr.
looking good!
Patted me on the shoulder and was like, yeah, we'll see you in a year.
Yeah.
And that was about it. And so got to talk about, we saw our nurse practitioner, and we saw the triage nurse that gave us all of the injections.
Yeah.
And then we got a phone call from our caseworker, and she was like, hey, why are you not down in neuropsych?
Yeah, we didn't know about it because it wasn't on your schedule.
Yeah, so I had to have a neurology exam.
Yeah, well, if you think about it, any research hospital needs to do before and afters to make sure that the case in the particular treatment has any kind of alteration to the patient, and so it makes sense that they do this because you go through so many chemical processes, and your infection was literally on your nervous system.
Yeah.
So, but we didn't get to do that before.
Because can you imagine what my neuro exam would have looked like before?
Fantastic.
It would have been fantastic.
Yes.
There is no way in the world I could have done any of it.
No, it would have been so great.
And we're still waiting on those results. She said it would take a couple weeks, and I go back every day to the NIH website to see if it's come up.
No, you do not.
I do. Well, I do also want to know about my chimerism results and all of that.
They should be back. Such a mess. Listen,
I just
you guys,
want to know how I did.
I knew it. He would ask I wasn't there, but he even admitted to it. He would ask as the assessment was going on, did I do that right? Am I passing? And she just wouldn't tell him.
So one time, they give you words or numbers and things like that. And there was one particular time that they had these pairs of words that you had to memorize. And I had 2 or 3 exercises I did with the pairs of words. And the very last thing she did was, now, tell me all of the pairs that you can remember. And I was like, okay. And I rattled through them, and I'm pretty certain I was missing one. And I got through all of them, and I was missing, and I said, you know what, I think there's one more. I can't remember it. And she said, okay, that's fine, you did really well. And I paused,
she did tell you
I
did
paused
well.
for a minute, and I said, can you tell me which one I missed? I just wanted to know which one it was I missed. And she said, no. And I was like, why not? And she said, well, if you ever have to take this exam again. And I thought for a minute, okay, I thought maybe we're going to come back later at the end and she's going to ask me again.
No, one day you're going to
She didn't ask me anything else again about those pairs of words. Get old
and you could have an Alzheimer's test and they're going to use the same test.
Oh my gosh. So anyway, I love those mental kind of tests where you get to challenge your brain and find pairs and make patterns and memorize stuff and try to recall it. I absolutely love it. And so that was just a lot of fun for me to get to do. But it was about a 2-hour mental test.
Yes.
And then we flew out the next day. So
I think I just went and read a book. I can't remember what I did.
I don't know what you did, but I you had to fill out paperwork.
I did.
About me.
I had to tell
as
the
well.
Truth.
Yeah. I
don't even remember the questions it asked, to be honest with you.
Well, the reason that it's kind of fun, this is why you get married, is so that your wife will
keep you honest.
Yeah, and it's not that I gotta be honest with you, it's not that I'm trying to be dishonest. I mean that.
But if you tell the whole picture, they're going to continue to ask more questions, and you just omit things.
So, we were talking. They were asking me in the neurological exam that there's an interview part, and Jody got to be in there for that.
Yes.
And I asked her to be in there for that. I mean, I could have said no.
Yep.
But I was like, no, she can be in there. And they were like, how many days do you feel depressed or bad about yourself? And I was like, maybe 2 days a week. And Jody was like, And I looked over at her and I was like, okay, that's wrong. Okay. More than that. and so
yeah,
then
he would cut eyes at me on a lot of questions, and because I was like.
And it's not that I'm trying to be. I swear, I know you don't think that, but I really am not trying to be dishonest.
Oh my gosh, you've done that with doctor's visits our entire marriage.
I do tend to minimize things.
Yes. I think you think they're not going to figure it out by checking your blood work and all that stuff.
But would you agree? I tend to minimize things. You tend to maximize things.
It depends on the situation. You too can maximize things.
I agree. I'm talking about at the doctor.
Okay. I feel like they need to know everything because when things are left out, then we have to keep going back.
Yes.
How many times did we have to go back before we finally got you admitted?
No, I have conceded that I was not mentally stable battling the fungal meningitis on the front end.
My God.
If it were not for you, I would be dead.
Whatever.
But do you think your father would say you minimize or maximize?
He would definitely say I maximize.
Yeah, but I think he definitely minimizes.
Oh, he ignores. He doesn't minimize. He absolutely ignores.
Oh,
hey, you've got like a blade sticking out of your side. What?
Pour some kerosene on it.
That's no big deal.
That was what
100 years from now, it won't matter.
100 years from now, it won't matter. That's what people did, though, back in that generation. Something was wrong. They just poured.
I need you guys to understand. I went to the doctor for illness maybe 3 or 4 times in my first 18 years of life. Like, I had sprained ankles I didn't go to the doctor for. I had sprained wrists I didn't go to the doctor for. Bike wrecks I didn't go to the doctor for. Like, I had the flu. I didn't go to the doctor. Like, I had to be, like, bleeding out of my eyeballs for my parents to be like, yeah, we probably should get that looked at. So, that's just a different generation. So,
it's funny.
Yeah.
All right. So, it was a great trip to the NIH. We have now come back, and everything is good. Let's take a step back now and let's talk about what it was like with the return after fungal meningitis, 2 rounds of rehab, Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, so we bring you home for Thanksgiving
2021.
And we kind of start with in-home therapy because it was very difficult to get you out of the house to go to a physical therapist location. So we actually started with home health, coming in and doing therapy with you. And this is after the surgery where we put the shunt in to relieve that. And so we're still unsure of what's going to happen because of that, but already within a month we started seeing your hands having some agility and some maneuverability.
Yeah. So this was where I'm so thankful for my stepmother, my bonus mom, Cindy Ann. Mm-hmm. Dad and Cindy Ann rented an apartment over in Martin, and Cindy would come in on Monday. She would come in on Sunday evening and spend Monday through Thursday with me until you got off work on Thursday. Mm-hmm. And then we had a guy from our church, Colton, who was a nursing student, who would come and stay with me on Friday during the day and just spend time with me and watch me. And it was so much easier for me to stay at home, and that's pretty much what I did. Yeah. If I wasn't going to the doctor or I would go to church on Sundays. Yeah. That was about the only time I left the house initially.
Yes.
And so physical therapy would come to the house, and there they would do things like range of motion. They just would take my hands and just move them. They would just take my arm and just move them, my legs and just move them.
Yeah, they were trying to make sure the muscles that had atrophy were getting reignited. That's firing up those particular triggers.
I would love to know what the neurologist at the NIH said to you, because I could always feel I had sensation throughout my entire body. It wasn't necessarily the right sensation, and it wasn't good sensation, but I had sensation. And we did a lot of range of motion early on with my arms, with my upper body. That was the easier range of motion to do. But whenever you would take my legs and you would do range of motion with my legs and kind of push my legs up into my chest, it felt so good. It was this stretching, and it felt so good every time that we did that. What did the neurologist say to you about the fact that I had some feeling in my body? It just was not necessarily the right feeling.
No, there's just so few cases of a person having a spinal cord injury that isn't a complete break, a complete dissection. So there's always that lack of knowledge of what's going to happen in terms of restorative connective tissue, restorative communication between the nerves. And so they truly felt that you were going to most likely, even though you could feel tingling and you could feel, I guess you could say, dermatitis type dermatological, you could feel a topical.
Yeah.
Like they could prick you, I guess.
Or even if they touched me, I could feel it. But they would do this thing where they had this
two different sides.
They had this device. One was sharp and one was dull. And they would ask, "Is it dull or is it sharp?" And I couldn't look, and they would do it, and I couldn't necessarily tell the difference.
Decipher, right? And so she truly felt like it was, and I appreciate that she was trying to be. Let me give you this scenario that we think is going to happen, and because you weren't feeling those sensations, they really didn't think that your overall legs themselves, your extremities, were getting communication. Yeah. So she didn't think you were going to have the ability to self-care or to be by yourself at all.
I can remember being really frustrated with the in-home home health. Not that they weren't doing a good job. They were doing all that they could, right? And they... But, like, I can remember one time they got me sitting up on the side of the bed, and they were so excited. And Cindy took a picture and sent it to you, and everybody was so excited. I was sitting up on the side of the bed. Here's my perspective. I was not sitting up. They had balanced me. It was like balancing an egg on a nail at the equator.
Yeah.
Like, they had just found this point of balance where I could sit, and I was there. And number two, I was absolutely terrified. It was terrifying because I had no control over my body, and I knew that if I started to fall, the physical therapist was going to grab me, or at least I hoped he was going to grab me, right? I mean, I hope that he would be able to get to me fast enough. And so, like, that was like success going up to Christmas time.
Yeah.
And so every morning it was Hoyer lift, get me out of the bed, get me into the chair, get me dressed, brush my teeth for me, and then I would either get wheeled, or as I use the sip and puff, I would wheel myself into the living room to my spot. We'd get covered up with an electric blanket and the heating pads because I was always cold, and that was my day. We would set up my phone, we would set up my computer, and I would try to do certain things. I would just try to navigate.
Right.
Getting around and trying to figure out, because the goal was for me to figure out how to become a pastor again.
Okay.
And a father again, and a husband again, and a human again.
Sure.
And the church, Crosswind, was amazing through all of this. They just continued to support me and love me.
They did more than any other group or organization or company. Like, we look at it from a just that standpoint. Like, your employer went above and beyond. And but yet they were our church family too.
And our church members went above and beyond. Wednesday nights, you and the girls would go to church. And a church member, John Warner, would come and sit with me.
Yes.
And we would spend a couple hours just hanging out in our living room.
What wisdom you must have.
Oh my gosh. And we would have conversations about everything, and he would, bring me my water bottle and give me stuff to drink, and just, he was amazing. And so many other folks came and spent time with me. Yeah. And that was my existence. And that was going into, Christmas of 2021.
Yeah.
And then January of 2022, we began, kind of saying, okay, when is Jeremy going to kind of start to share his story? When is he going to start to speak? When is he going to address the church? He's back. He's going to church every Sunday.
Right.
But when is he going to do that? And so sat down with you and sat down with the elders, sat down with our staff, and we devised a plan. as we started talking about that plan, tell me your thoughts. I can tell you my thoughts. My thoughts were, I want to get back in and jump back in and do as much as I can as quick as I can. What were some of your thoughts?
So I'm having to be mediator because I also want to make sure that we protect the church from feeling burdened that they have to allow you to come back so quickly. I didn't want them to feel like that. I was very cautious about your feelings and our church family's feelings, because I wanted to make sure that we didn't go too quickly, because if we went too quickly, there's that thought that we could you could become exhausted and this could be a disaster, a train wreck. But there was also that part of they had done so much without you, and I didn't want you to come whirling back in and like nothing had happened. And I think I was trying to help create that delicate balance of let's just start with preaching, and then let's start with pastoral care, and then let's start with vision casting and planning. And so let's be gradual so that everybody, because it's just like with Abby saying, when I would come back, it still, even though I was back, it didn't feel right, because there had been so many other norms that had been established because of an absence of parents.
Yeah. And our staff had done so well, and our elders had done so well. And that was just, it was such a God thing, and they're such talented individuals. I can remember coming to a church service and hearing what it was that had been going on. I think they baptized 11 or 12 people on a Sunday, one Sunday. And then I started going back to staff meetings, and I started going back to staff meetings virtually.
Right.
So they would Zoom me into staff meetings, and I can remember Zooming into a staff meeting after that Sunday where they had baptized, a dozen people. And I just said, hey guys, I could not be prouder of how much you guys have done and how you have held it together. And that's where Garrett, my associate pastor, who's now the pastor at Crosswind, he told me later, that I cut off of that Zoom meeting, and he was like, that's why we do what we do. That's why we did what we did. And I remember thinking, they were doing it for the Lord, but they also were doing it for me. It was so humbling to know that they wanted to do justice to the church and to God, but they also wanted to make me proud on some level, and man, they did. They were just amazing. And so we sat down and we said, okay, here's the thing. I can put an open Bible in my lap, but I can't necessarily, I'm not going to be able to necessarily turn the pages.
Right.
So I'm going to have to memorize whatever it is that I do. Because even though I can have somebody type it for me, or I can use voice to text, using voice to text was so difficult.
Right.
And so tedious. All the errors, and then trying to do all of the commands and that sort of thing. It was just absolutely tedious. And so, we had to kind of work through some of that kind of stuff and try to figure that out.
Yeah.
What was I going to be able to do? And of course, I'm a planner. I go into detail. That's what I do. And so I was like, I'm going to have this happen. I have to have this happen. Going to have these things happen. This is what's going to have to go.
And they did too. When you first went back, the stage wasn't modified, and but your wheelchair would lift so that you could elevate yourself where people could see you, and that was cool. So I would wheel you to the front, and you would preach, and then they improved the stage and also bought an elevator, basically.
Yeah. So the plan was, my recovery went, and I would love to get your perspective on this. I can tell you what I think. From January 1 to, say, the end of February, there was a real rapid increase of ability.
Yeah, I would definitely say that.
And not that I was all the way back. There were a couple things that I still struggled with. The first one was dryness in my mouth. Yeah. I was taking medicine that was causing my mouth to get really dry. And so we were trying to figure out, if I'm going to speak for 30 minutes, how do I do it without my mouth going so dry?
So we tried several things, like a camel pack and or just pausing and going to let you someone give you water.
But we discovered, and this was really probably dangerous now that I look back on it, like if you give me gum to chew, it would keep the saliva moving in my mouth. And so I would chew gum, and then I would kind of stick it over in my cheek while I was talking. Man, I could have choked. That would have been terrible.
It's okay. We would have saved you.
Yeah. Like you saved me in the pool. So, too soon?
It's not too soon. You're still being a baby.
Oh, come on. It's funny. Okay, anyway.
You are alive today because of me.
I am. Okay. Because of Jesus. I'm going to give him the credit.
Okay.
Anyway. No. So, what we decided, the plan we decided was January, I would preach on January 6th. And that was the first, my first Sunday to speak. We did not advertise that I was going to be speaking. We did not want that to be a big deal.
We didn't want to advertise it and then something happened.
Right.
And then we also didn't want to advertise it because we didn't want... It's like, no offense, church people, but this is what happens when there's a new pastor coming in view of a call or a guest speaker or something, then people come out of the woodworks.
Yeah. So
we just wanted to be another Sunday.
And it was January 6th. It was the first Sunday of the year. So what that meant...
What else is January 6th?
It's our anniversary.
Okay.
It meant that we were going to have a low attendance, and we knew we were going to have a low attendance.
Yes,
so it was a safe Sunday. It was going to be typically our people. You're not going to have... First Sunday of the year, you're probably not going to have a lot of guests show up. We felt like it was safe, and I was just basically going to share a little bit of my story and what it is I've been through and what it is we were experiencing. And then the plan was in February for me to preach one Sunday.
Yes.
March for me to preach 2 Sundays.
Yeah.
April for me to preach 3 Sundays. So that by the time we got to May, 3 out of every 4 Sundays-ish, I would be preaching on a regular.
Correct.
And that ended up speeding up a little bit because Garrett, who was the associate pastor that was preaching on the regular for me, he was filling in. Garrett got sick in February, so I actually preached twice in February. And I remember him calling me, going, "Jeremy, I'm sick. Can you do it, or do we need to get Chase, our youth pastor, or somebody else to do it?" And I remember saying, "No, I got it." And that's what I was telling you. I feel like there was a rapid increase because from the way that I was on January 6th, I was still short of breath. I was still dry-mouthed. To preaching twice in February, I don't remember there being really hardly any issue in February with me preaching on a regular twice, half of the times in February.
Okay.
I mean, do you? I'm anxious to...
I think you still had some shortness of breath and some dry mouth.
Yeah.
I think that's something that just had to be gradual.
Yeah.
To work through that wasn't going to go away because of healing. That was going to have to go away when
that was because of
stopped.
medicine.
Yeah.
Medicine.
Yeah.
So that by the time I got to April and Easter, we actually had modified the stage. We had a lift to get my chair up on the stage, and I was wheeling on and off every Sunday onto the stage at Crosswind by the time we get to April of 2022. And I was preaching. What I love about what meningitis did for Crosswind is my plan always along. My goal was to never build a church that was personality driven, but to build a church that was based around a vision. And what I felt like that needed was it need other people that were speaking regularly, that were preaching regularly. I wanted to be the primary communicator. I love to preach. But I wanted at least once a month or once every 5 to 6 weeks for there to be somebody else that was preaching.
Yeah.
And so what this allowed us to do is to say, once we get to April, and Jeremy preaches 3 out of the 4 Sundays in April, we're going to have Garrett preach every, 4th or 5th Sunday.
Okay. Yeah.
And then we're going to incorporate in our student pastor, and we're going to incorporate in some other people along the way.
Yeah.
So that one day, and we always said, if Jeremy steps off a curb and gets hit by a bus, or if Jeremy goes somewhere else, or if Jeremy gets fungal meningitis and can't do it, like that, there's somebody else that the church is used to hearing.
Right.
It's not the same voice every time. and you build around a vision. And fungal meningitis allowed us to be able to do that at Crosswind. And it was so, I think, healthy for our church and so healthy for our leadership and our staff.
It was a good
and
transition.
it was really, really good. And so when we would do a sermon series after that for the next couple of years, we would sit down with our staff. I would lay out the entire sermon series, and then I would look at Garrett across the table and Chase, our student pastor, across the table. In some cases, Courtney, our children's minister, Courtney's children's pastor, across the table. And I would say, okay, which one are you going to preach? Which one are you going to do?
Yeah.
And in particular, Garrett was regularly in the rotation, and I think it was really, really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I do want to ask this question, and we'll ask this, and maybe we need to wrap it up at this point because we can move on next time. But I know it made people nervous with my wheelchair on the stage.
It wasn't just that. You would up on there and then almost go to the edge of the stage, and it would make people want to vomit because they were like, he's going to roll right off the stage.
You really felt like I was going right to the edge of the stage.
There were a lot of people who...
Oh, I know there were a lot of people out. They wanted a railing to keep me from going over the edge.
No.
And so I would intentionally I was.
Are you saying you did it on purpose?
No.
You said intentional.
What I was getting ready to say is I was nervous that I would accidentally bump it and push myself closer to the edge. So I did, every time I would go and I'd get set in place, I would turn the power to the chair off.
That's wise.
That was something that I always did. When you got to moving
your arms a little bit more, you would bump it every now and then.
And eventually, I think the biggest struggle that I had preaching from the chair is that the fact that I'm a very animated guy. I like to move around a lot, and when I'm in the chair, I don't get a chance to move around a lot.
No.
And so I did. One of the first things I would do is I would actually move my chair left or right a little bit. I would angle it some.
We're looking,
like
you can't turn your head.
I would move it, because turning my head is hard because I got hardware in my neck.
Yeah, everybody knows.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So that's what was going on at the church.
Yes. So we're excited about telling you the next steps as he continues to move through in therapy, as we continue to see what God is telling us as a family, as we're transitioning with lots of different callings and direction, and just continuing to watch God do miraculous things.
Mm-hmm. So, Jody, it is the time of the podcast where we talk about what's remarkable. So I would love to hear what it is that you think is remarkable.
So I didn't get to see it, but I'm hoping to add it to my next year thing. So my family has always been a shoot the fireworks from the back of your house kind of thing. And it wasn't until Jeremy and I married that we would go watch big firework extravaganzas and shows in the larger cities areas. But last weekend, a local area city, instead of doing fireworks, they were being attentive to people with sensitivity to hearing and sensitivity to loud noises and sensitivity to fire and so forth. And they did a drone fireworks
A drone
show.
fireworks
That's
show.
Fantastic. And I saw previews of it, and they were making the Statue of Liberty, and they were making the shape of the country and all that. I was like, oh.
It's a little scary what they can do with drones.
It is, but it's remarkable.
It is remarkable. I will say this. My daughter, AJ, our daughter, AJ, was in the play, Oklahoma, at the Virginia Sanford Theater in Birmingham.
Yes.
And the amount of talent
Woo!
that I saw on that stage, these were kids that are 18 and under.
Yes.
It was amazing.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
And, I think my daughter is tremendously talented, right? AJ is tremendous. And Emma too.
We're pretty biased.
They are tremendously talented. Everyone on the stage was gifted individual.
Yes.
Doing and the thing that I thought that was even more remarkable. No, it's not more remarkable than the kids. They were the most remarkable. But as we were waiting to go in to see the play, I'm looking at, they have the history of the Virginia Sanford Theater.
Yeah.
Nell Carter.
Yes!
From Give Me a Break is an alum of the Virginia State. Like
Let's go, Nell.
Nell Carter, as
That's
in
right.
give me a break.
That's awesome.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to go back and check that out.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, they got performances coming up. So Abby is auditioning for quite a few things with a couple local theaters. So if you like musical theater, there's more coming in both
the Birmingham area.
In the Birmingham area. So, gosh, there's so many great little theaters around here. So we're super excited for that.
Okay.
Meanwhile, if you have a story that you want to share, we're so, again, encouraged to know that you are also going to bless people, because we are going to open up the mic for you, and you can be able to share that your family, like ours, is just a little bit quirky, a little bit different, and yet not that unique, and just a little unremarkable.
See you next time.